So, hello, good morning, good afternoon from wherever you are joining us today. You have tuned into the information session for the Controlled Access Management for Research Data Initiative on the 6th of November, 2025. I know that we have folks joining from all over the country today, so I am going to give maybe a couple more moments for folks to join in, get comfortable before launching straight into the information session. I would also like to give a quick note to say that if you require French interpretation, please select your preferred language channel from the Zoom setting bar. Closed captioning is also available, and this session is being recorded and will be accessible on the Alliance website next week. So throughout this presentation, we encourage you to engage with us using the Q&A feature, and you can find the Q&A feature in the More section on your Zoom screen. If you have any questions, simply type them into the Q&A and we will address them at the end. So if we receive more questions than we have time to answer during this live session, we will compile a list of responses to all the unanswered questions and add them to the FAQ section on the webpage for the Controlled Access Management. And so, hi everyone, my name is Lucy Shen. I am the Data Governance and Ethics Lead here at the Alliance, and I am so delighted to be able to walk you through the exciting activities that we have planned for this phase of the initiative in the next 60 minutes or so that we have together. And so, without further ado, welcome. As we meet virtually across the country, I would like to acknowledge that we are all located in different traditional territories belonging to many different nations. At each of our public meetings, we have made it a practice to begin with a land acknowledgement. And I invite you to join me in respectfully recognizing the First Nations, Inuit, and Métis lands that you are on by sharing your acknowledgement in the chat. It is important that we work hard to understand the long histories of these lands and to recognize what those histories mean for the work ahead for the Controlled Access Management Initiative. Land acknowledgements hopefully encourages us to think about what brought each of us here today and to reflect on our place within that history. I myself am based in Toronto and acknowledge that I am on the traditional territories of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples. As we move on with our proceedings, it is with acknowledgement of the First Nation, Inuit, and Métis Nation and communities who have been harmed by colonial and unethical research, as well as data sovereignty and research practices. We commit to understanding and taking up the Alliance's role in reducing harm and advancing reconciliation in research. We have a code of conduct that guides our gathering today. The Alliance seeks to provide a welcoming, engaging, and safe community for everyone. Discriminatory language is not appropriate in any venue or platform. The Alliance does not tolerate harassment in any form, and harassment is understood as any behavior that threatens another person or group or produces an unsafe environment. So thank you for being here and to learn together. So this is the agenda that I will use to guide our meeting today. I will start off by introducing the background to the Controlled Access Management for Research Data Initiative, which I will call CAM for short from here on out. Briefly cover the work that was completed last year, as well as projects that were pursued under the umbrella of the initiative. I will then introduce phase 2 of the initiative and walk you through the exciting plans that we have ahead for this phase. And finally, how you can get involved in this call for participation before having a catered time for questions. And for those of you who have just tuned in, hi, my name is Lucy Shen. I am the Data Governance and Ethics Lead here at the Alliance and will be leading the CAM initiative. So this means I will be responsible for leading, navigating, and operationalizing day-to-day activities of CAM with managerial and strategic support from Victoria. Victoria Smith is the initiative manager. And with that, I love to turn the mic over to Victoria to say a few words and to introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for that, Lucy. So my name is Victoria Smith. I am the Manager of Research Data Services at the Alliance. Lucy holds a role that I was previously in, so I'm thrilled to be working closely with her to support this exciting project. And very happy to be with her and with you all today for this information session. So looking forward to any questions and comments you folks will have in the Q&A section. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, so with that, let's dive into the background for the initiative. So researchers are increasingly expected to share their data for archival in the medium and long-term use. But what happens if you are working with data that cannot be shared openly? So the main drivers for these data sharing requirements come from publishers, funders, and other regulators within the ecosystem. So for instance, in 2021, the Tri-Agency released their research data management policy with one of the requirements outlined oriented around data deposition. Furthermore, Canadian publishers and the publishing ecosystem as a whole are requiring data availability statements and sometimes even deposition as a requirement for publication. So what we're seeing is a movement towards open science and data retention practices. But not all data can be shared. So data that is sensitive, for instance, come against privacy, ethics, and legal concerns, where controlled access mechanisms are needed in order to steward these types of data. And so the CAM initiative was born. So the aim of this initiative as a whole is to advance the Canadian research ecosystem's capacity to manage controlled access, which will in turn strengthen research security, enable research discovery, and prevent the loss of valuable data. But what does controlled access management actually mean? So we see controlled access management as methods of different mechanisms and systems in data stewardship that simultaneously facilitate discovery, approve access, while keeping data secure and preventing unauthorized breaches. And so by bringing together organizations and institutions keen in contributing to the goals of the initiative, we aim for this to become a forum for collaboration between key stakeholders. And so in phase one of the initiative last year, we had 29 partner organizations join us. Together, the partner organizations came to co-produce a report and recommendation, which is published online, and it provides an overview of the current state of controlled access management in Canada. Together, the partner organizations mapped out the needs and challenges facing Canadian institutions, as well as a set of 16 recommendations to advance Canada's capacity within this regards. And these recommendations covered a broad range of topics, from infrastructure and governance to research ethics board considerations for data deposits and best practices for metadata. And in addition to the report and recommendation, a project in collaboration with the Federated Research Data Repository, which we will call FERDA for short, and in partner with one of the partner organizations, was supported. So this was called the FERDA Sensitive Data Pilot. So this project tested the FERDA offering of the sensitive data tool as a technological solution to depositing sensitive data in repositories. So during the test, a single sensitive data set was encrypted, deposited into the repository, and a subsequent access request. So the aim was to gather feedback on the encryption software, the workflow for the sensitive data offering, as well as feedback to help shape and refine the service. And so the report and the FERDA sensitive data pilot helped to inform and shape phase two of this initiative, which as a whole is to continue advancing Canadian research ecosystems capacity for managing controlled access to research data. And in phase two, we'll continue building on the work of phase one and to develop high-level implementation plans or guidances to the recommendations published in the report. We'll continue supporting projects under the umbrella of the CAM initiative, including continuation of the FERDA sensitive data pilot, as well as other projects within the community. And finally, we want to expand the reach and impact of this initiative by inviting new organizations to join us in advancing Canada's research ecosystem capacity for managing controlled access to research data. And so what does the overall structure of the CAM initiative look like? So the day-to-day activities of the CAM are operationalized by working groups. Working groups are designed with specific deliverables that achieve phase 2 goals, and they are co-chaired by members of the community, and partner organizations are strongly encouraged to place members within those working groups in order to help shape the work and outcome of that group. So for instance, last year, the CAM initiative had 3 working groups, each with different mandates that contributed to the recommendations published in the report. So in addition to working groups, projects under the umbrella of the initiative are also designed to address various challenges in controlled access management. So this can look like from testing tools and services to developing frameworks and guidelines that addresses emerging needs within the community. So working groups and projects are independent of each other, but sometimes working groups can be established within a project in order to complement the workings of that project. And as of right now, we have 4 working groups that are in development for phase 2. And I want to emphasize that this is by no means an exhaustive list. So more working groups may be established as the initiative progresses. But let's talk about these working groups in a little bit more detail. So first is the implementation planning working group. And the aim of this working group is to provide high-level implementation plan to readily achievable recommendations published in the report. Second is the data deposit readiness for research hospital working group. And this working group will be more curated with the aim of supporting one of the projects in this phase. And so the overall aim of this group is to provide a generalizable framework for research hospitals to evaluate their data deposit readiness. And I'll talk about the project in a little bit more detail in a bit. Third is the pre-deposit activities working group with the aim to identify and support pre-deposit activities that enable researchers to successfully share their controlled access data. And fourth, but no means last, the partner organizations will be able to co-create a working group that helps to support the collective interests of the organizations. And as I mentioned before, this is by no means an exhaustive list. The CAM initiative is dynamic and flexible, and we want to serve the needs of the community. And so pivoting slightly to introduce some of the projects that will be ongoing for phase 2. And in the same view as working groups, these projects that I will introduce right now are no means the only projects that will be supported. So the further sensitive data pilot project part 2 will be continuing. We recognize that controlling and managing controlled access to research data is complex, and technology is an essential component in order to support appropriate data stewardship. The right technology and infrastructure can help support researchers working with sensitive data to store their data appropriately in line with their ethics and institutional requirements. And therefore, we're excited to continue the sensitive data pilot project in this phase. And in this phase, the pilot will be open to all partner organizations interested and capable of participating. And so the aim of part 2 of this pilot is to conduct new and additional tests, encrypting, depositing, and stewarding access requests for sensitive datasets. And similarly, the feedback gathered from participating institutions and researchers will help further refine this workflow and tool. Next is the Data Deposit Readiness for Research Hospitals project, and I promise we will find an acronym for this. So why is this project important? Research hospitals face a unique challenge in adhering to data deposition requirements due to the type of data that they collect, which includes clinical and personal information. This is by no means that the only type of institutions that will collect this type of data. The research hospitals also have a unique intellectual property ownership of that data. So the ability to deposit data is an essential first step in facilitating data discovery and enabling researchers to utilize infrastructure offerings. So this project will first aim to conduct an internal assessment of research hospital readiness at one of the partner organizations to comply with new and evolving data deposition requirements. So this means that if new data deposition requirements were to drop tomorrow, what would this look like for the research hospital? And so the aim of this project is not to change institutional processes, workflows, but to evaluate how ready the research hospital is right now to deposit data. Secondly, the project will aim to develop a generalizable framework or guideline to advance research hospital processes and support data deposition requirements, which will be published and made available to any research hospitals as a tool to help evaluate their own deposit readiness. And so this will be through the working group that I mentioned earlier. So access to the projects, the Further Sensitive Data Pilot and the Data Deposit Readiness Project working group are just some of the benefits that we hope partner organizations will reap from, but there are many more. Data management and deposition requirements will impact all institutions, and therefore collaboration in developing strategies to advance control access through cultivating threads of communications help bridge gaps between regulators, funders, and research organizations. And so participating partner organizations will have the ability to provide input into the development of strategies and to support management of research data requiring controlled access. So in addition, the CAMP team have also planned to organize a dedicated speaker series, which will be made available to partner organizations, exploring Canada's data deposition landscape. This includes emerging requirements, available infrastructure, and services that support and advance data sharing. And so here is the timeline for the program. Earlier this month, on the 16th of October, the call for participation opened for application for partner organizations. Today, the 6th of November, we have our dedicated information session. And an important date to note is the 14th of November, which is the deadline for application at 5 p.m. Eastern. Following that, we will aim to have the first partner organization meeting on the 28th of November. And so the partner organizations that we are welcoming to this initiative include Canadian universities, post-secondary college or educational institutions, as well as research hospitals that receive public funding. We are welcoming not-for-profit organizations that is capable of carrying out meaningful research, and we mean this term very broadly here. And similarly, any institutions or not-for-profit organizations whose activities contribute to the Canadian digital research infrastructure ecosystem. And we classify repositories, publishers under that category. We are also delighted to welcome First Nations, Inuit, Métis Nation organizations, communities, collectives, or governments to join this initiative. And so if you have heard all that and you are interested in sending in an application, and we sincerely hope that you do, a PDF application is made available to you in the participating guide on the Control Access Management website. So the completed application can be sent to the program inbox written on the slide here with the title CAM, Call for Participation Phase 2. So this information, slide, and recording will be made available to you after the call. So please don't feel pressured to note all of this information down. And finally, we want to emphasize that this is not a merit-based program. All eligible organizations under the eligibility criteria will be accepted as partner organizations. We believe that this approach will foster broader participation, facilitate communication within the ecosystem, and strengthen the collective impact of the program. And so thank you so much for listening. I would be pleased to answer any questions that you may have. And with that, I'd like to invite my colleague, Howlin, to moderate the Q&A section for this meeting. And Howlin, why don't I invite you to give you a quick introduction?
Thanks, Lucy. Hi, everyone. I'm Howlin. I'm a research data governance specialist at UD Health Toronto, and I'm also one of the staff supporting the CAM initiative for Phase 2. I'm not seeing any questions in the Q&A box just yet, so can maybe give it a minute.
All I'm sure folks are probably typing in the questions after hearing all of that. That was a very quick whistle-stop tour of the CAM initiative. And thank you again for being here today and for joining us. And as a reminder, you can find the Q&A in the More section on your Zoom channel.
And I'm seeing that we do have some questions coming in. So if it's all right, Lucy, I'm going to take the first one here from Ash. He says, if there are Canadian commercial RDM platforms that substantially fulfill the CAM objectives and requirements that are currently delivering these services, why is the Alliance not providing them a mechanism to participate, contribute, and accelerate? So thank you very much for that question. So really the aim of the CAM initiative is to provide a forum for organizations engaged in research to collaborate. While there are all kinds of tools and services available in Canada, whether those are commercial, profitable, open source, and so on, the aim is to provide the organizations that are engaged in supporting their researchers with a forum for collaboration. Certainly, all kinds of different tools and services play a big part in addressing the varied and diverse, sensitive and restricted data needs that researchers have in Canada, whether those are open source, proprietary, or otherwise. But the initiative itself does not work directly with vendors or distributors and doesn't endorse any particular vendor or distributor. So thank you for that question. And if it's all right, I think the next one is one that I'll take as well regarding signing authority. So this is a great question. Really what we're looking for is and maybe this isn't a perfect answer, is for your organization to make that determination in part. There's no financial considerations associated with participating. So you don't need anyone with financial signing authority to sign off. Really what we're looking for is an indication that your organization is aware that someone's undertaking this. So if the applicant is someone working, in a library, in ethics, in a particular department, and so on, we want to be certain that there is organizational support, not just for that individual to participate, but for them to connect with other colleagues and to coordinate broader participation, potentially from other staff within their organization. Great. So Howlin, I'll hand the reins back over to you for question moderation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for answering those. Question from Alex in the chat. Sorry if I missed this, but are phase 1 participants assumed to be going ahead into phase 2? Lucy?
Yes, I can help take that question. Yes, absolutely. If you are a partner organization during phase 1 of the initiative, no need to reapply. You will automatically be considered for phase 2.
Thank you. Another question directed for you, Lucy. This is from Chantel. What type of time commitment are you thinking would be required? How often will meetings be held? And they're trying to evaluate capacity for participation.
So thank you so much, Chantal, for that question. It is an excellent question because different projects, working group members will have different time commitments. So partner organization meetings will occur once a month, whereas working group meetings will occur bi-weekly or as determined for the capacity of the working group. This is very flexible and meets the needs and work of that working group. We will also have a dedicated speaker series that I spoke about earlier, and this will happen once a month as well. So I hope this sheds some light on the time of work, on the work commitment for this initiative. But of course, if you are involved in multiple working groups or the work carried out within that working group is will be very dependent on how much time you will dedicate to this initiative.
And just to add on to that, so the speaker series is optional. So in terms of strict requirements for participation, there's a monthly meeting for the partner organization representatives that's 1 hour. And as Lucy mentioned, we are asking organizations to have at least one person involved in at least one working group. So we anticipate for the most part the working group meetings to be bi-weekly. So if you've got one person doing, wearing both of those hats, it would be a monthly meeting series in addition to a bi-weekly meeting series in all likelihood. I hope that is helpful.
A related question. maybe picking off of that, are there any specific responsibilities and duties for partner organizations?
Great question. So basically to attend those meetings, so to attend the monthly meeting series and to engage with at least one working group. That being said, I think there will be terms of reference included in the acceptance package that goes out to the organizations, but there's nothing all that surprising in there. So basically to sort of contribute in good faith, to make best efforts to attend meetings and so on, to participate sort of as effectively as you can. No financial requirements or resourcing requirements beyond beyond that.
I would
think
also
that's
say that the terms of references is also available in the program guide as well, that is online. So if you would like to have a sneak peek of that early on, it is on the Controlled Access Management website.
Great, thank you. Next question. Is it possible to apply without having any help from the university's IT department? Mine is currently at capacity and unable to help with any new projects currently. I think Victoria, maybe you'd be best
yeah.
in position to answer that.
Happy to take that. So absolutely, you are not required to involve your university's IT department. And just to speak to that a little bit more specifically, so partly what we've done in phase one of the CAM initiative and what we're looking to continue doing in phase two is to recognize that controlled access management is a shared activity that happens across a whole spectrum of different workflows and activities that are conducted within the institution. So in the context of any particular project, their ethics department, might be involved. Privacy may or may not be involved. Research contracts could be implicated. IT could be implicated, and so on. So we've built working groups that enable the participation from a cross section of staff from an institution, precisely so that we've got folks from various different departments looking at problems, able to information share and problem solve collaboratively. That being said, you are not required to have any particular department participate in the initiative. So as mentioned earlier, you would be able to participate as an individual. So if you've got one person that's going to act as the representative of your organization attending the monthly meeting series and also attending one or participating in one working group, that counts as sort of sufficient participation. We're not looking to create any sort of barriers to engagement or anything like that. But certainly you are more than welcome to engage as many folks within your institution as you would like to engage and who have capacity to engage. So in phase one, we had organizations where there was just one or maybe two people from a particular organization involved, and then other partner organizations that may have had 5 or 6 or more staff participating in different aspects of the initiative. So it's a choose your own adventure sort of situation there.
Great. And just another question on signing authority. I figured I would streamline these questions altogether. From Annalise, if we aren't the ones with signing authority, but will be the institution's representative, where in the submission form should we indicate this information and distinction? I think Victoria, back to you again.
And I might actually hand it to Lucy for this one. I believe there are different areas to indicate that, but I'm not looking at the form in front of me right at this moment. Lucy, is
Yeah.
there anything that you might be able to add there? Yeah.
I am happy to take on this question. So yes, absolutely correct. In the application form, there is a section for applicants to provide their information, but we also are requiring a person with signing authority to sign off on the application. So at the moment, I think there is a applicant / dash site person with signing authority. So please feel free to put both names if they are not the same individual in that section of the application. Or if this is or if this approach doesn't work for you, please feel free to put the individual with the signing authority in a blank space on the PDF document. And this is because the acceptance letter will be directed towards the individual with the signing authority. And that is the reason why we are requesting that information.
Thanks, Lucy. A couple more questions. One from Tim. Is CAM proactively putting in agreements with medical organizations or others right now we have to vet each environment a researcher wants to use separately in different information sharing agreements. I assume this is relevant to the data deposit working group and project within the CAM phase 2. Victoria, Lucy, any of the two
Oh,
of you
yeah.
want to take that up?
Happy to jump in, and I see there's another question from Tim as well, so I'm happy to take both of those. So we do have research hospitals and other groups that specialize or focus on medical and health research involved in the CAM initiative. But looking at the second question here that says, with regards to encryption, who's in control of the decryption keys and where would they be stored? So something that Lucy talked a little bit about in the presentation, but that I'll emphasize here is that the FRDR Sensitive Data Project is its own project. So the CAM initiative is a broader forum for collaboration that's looking to support a variety of different activities and projects that include working groups and so on, and the FRDR Sensitive Data Project. So I apologize if that's unnecessarily confusing. So I'm going to assume that the question here around encryption and decryption keys is specific to the FRDR Sensitive Data Project, which involves encrypting and depositing data, storing encryption keys, and making decryption keys available to researchers following an adjudicated and approved access request. So I'll just say that the decryption key or the encryption keys are stored in Vault. We are using a symmetric encryption process, but the decryption key, when shared, is itself wrapped in another layer of encryption and tied to a public-private key pairing set belonging to the requester. In addition, everything is time locked. So when a researcher is granted access to a data set, the key is only valid for a brief period of time. I believe we've got 2 weeks right now. That's subject to change just based on feedback from users and so on. And the encrypted data set itself is only available for download, I believe also for a 2-week period. So should the account be compromised in a year from now or something, no one can just click a link and immediately get access to the data that way. I'm just trying to think of what else would be included in this question. It's the PI who responds to an access request. So in terms of adjudicating an access request that comes in and making a determination about whether or not to grant access, that responsibility belongs to the depositor themselves. FRDR has built a process to request access that involves submitting a research proposal, as well as a CV, which is a standard part of an ethics application. Of course, you want to verify that the person proposing the research is qualified to undertake the research they're proposing. Any relevant ethics approvals in the case of human participant data or data that would require, or data the use of which would require ethics approval. They've also built a system which enables the creation of a data sharing agreement that's automatically generated by this request process. So basically, those components of the request, in fact, then become appendices to the agreement, which is digitally automatically signed by the depositor and the requester when the request is approved. All of that is in quite early phases of testing, but we really want to emphasize that's an exciting part of this project. Any institution participating or any organization participating in phase 2 is eligible to participate in the FRDR pilot. So if you've got researchers and data sets and you would like to be involved in the FRDR sensitive data pilot, we strongly encourage it, and very happy to answer any more questions anyone might have on that. So I think that Tim, I'm hoping that's answered your question, but if not, please feel free to clarify or to follow up.
Thank you. I think a related question for Yolanda, does participation require using the pilot tools, or is the essential element of participation the collaboration/working groups without respect to specific technical implementations? I think maybe this question around separation of participation within the FRDR pilots versus the working groups.
Yeah, and absolutely, no one's required to participate in the FRDR pilot. So absolutely not. That is an option that is available to any organization that's participating, but certainly not a requirement. That's expressed very well. The essential element of participation is the collaborative working group piece. So thank you for that.
Great. Another question from Alex in the chat. To what extent do you foresee details about the coming tri-agency data deposit / retention requirement shaping CAM? Lucy, do you want to take that on?
For sure, I can take a crack at that, and maybe Victoria, please feel free to follow on if you think I haven't quite covered it. I think that's an excellent question, and yes, absolutely. I think the future tri-agency data deposit retention requirements will absolutely impact CAM. So one of the really exciting activities in CAM is the speaker series. And for one of the speaker series, we are looking to invite tri-agency members to come and talk about the data deposition requirements. And hopefully that will shed some light on what the data deposition requirements will be. But the aim of CAM is to be able to support data deposition and what that looks like for sensitive data or data that cannot be deposited directly. So Victoria, do you want to add anything else to that?
Yeah, happy to add on, but not because you haven't covered anything, Lucy. But no, I think, Alex is getting at a really critical question here, which is that I think the whole country, to a certain extent, is talking about the tri-agency data deposit requirement. So certainly we're thinking about it a lot, and I think it's impacting all kinds of things in terms of decision making and risk assessment happening within various institutions and organizations. But it's not the only thing that drives data deposit. So as Lucy mentioned, of course, publishers are increasingly expecting or requiring data deposit. Certainly the details of any sort of data deposit or retention requirement has a huge impact on service providers. So I know Furter is really looking to make sure that the development of its sensitive data option helps researchers that are struggling to find deposit options available to them. I know Borealis has been doing a lot of excellent work in this area as well. So certainly Canadian service providers and infrastructure providers are doing a lot of work to be able to provide more and more effective or more available or more accessible controlled access data repository and similar service offerings for researchers. But I wouldn't want to suggest that the Tri-Council policy on this point is sort of singular in shaping the initiative. Certainly this work predates it. So the Furter Sensitive Data Project and sort of the early seeds of CAM and so on came well before. We had the RDM, the Tri-Council RDM policy that first made reference, I believe, to the data deposit requirement. And there were lots of other things that we're thinking about here too. Certainly researchers themselves are pushing more and more for open science. And there's other folks too that are expecting or requiring it. So yeah, it's big, but not the only thing, but sort of right on the money, Alex, I think, to be asking that question now.
Thanks both. Question from Chris. I'll direct this towards Lucy. What is the name of the working group that meets monthly? I'm assuming another summary of the working groups for phase 2 would be helpful.
For sure. So the partner organization meetings will happen on a monthly basis, whereas the working group meetings will happen on a bi-weekly basis. But this is very dependent on, what the mandates and the deliverables of that working group may be. Sometimes working group members may feel that once bi-weekly is enough to help them carry out the work that they need to do. And this might ramp up to once a week, but certainly this is not a requirement. So the group that will meet on a monthly basis will be the partner organization representatives.
Thank you. Question from L in the Q&A. It seems that participation is open to institutions rather than individual labs. So how does this application process work in practice, presumably for individual labs? Lucy, you want to take this question on?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are absolutely welcoming applications from individual labs. So I would encourage you to have a look if your institution is already a partner organization during phase 1. And this kind of answers the question on top of where can I find phase 1 participants. And you can find them on the Alliance Controlled Access Management phase 1 website, or they are also published in the recommendations and report that is available on Zenodo on the Alliance website as well. But going back to the original question, yes, we are absolutely open to individual labs, and we would encourage you to submit an application.
Thank you. I think that's all the questions we have within the Q&A box.
Oh, I do see another one that's pop in from Annalise.
These, if we aren't the one with signing authority, but I think we answered this question.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Previously.
Awesome. Just wanted to make sure we weren't missing anything there. Okay, great. Thank you so much, everyone, for sending in your questions. We really appreciate the engagement with this phase of the initiative. Howlin, would you mind taking a quick look at the chat to see if we have any questions that have been missed?
Let's see. I think we're all good there. I think we're all covered.
Okay, that sounds amazing. So thank you so much, everyone, again for joining us. We hope that you found this information session informative and helped to answer some of the questions that you might have. With that, I know we are a couple minutes early, so I would be delighted to give you back 15 minutes of your day. And once again, thank you so much for joining us. It has been an absolute delight, and we hope to see your applications in. Thank you so much, everyone.